Okay, thank you. So we can move on to our second session since it's already past 3. Our presenter would be Anaga MG from CMS College, followed by Aparna Jayadevan. Anaga, you may begin.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are.
Good afternoon, all. I am Anakha MG, and I'm doing my master's in English at CMS College, Kottayam. The paper that I'm going to present today is titled as Water as a Multi-Leveled Symbol, a comparative analysis of Sarah Joseph's Adi and J.M. Singh's Riders to the Sea. In the realm of literary and cultural studies arena, the study of ecology and environmental criticism acquired a leading space. Eco-criticism is a pivotal component of literary and cultural analysis that explores the interrelationship between literature and nature from a wide number of perspectives. And in the realm of literature, we can see a rich reflection of water that made us aware about the tremendous influence of water for human life. Water holds endless fascination for writers of all ages, and literary works painted the transitory nature of water that embodies the principle of life, death, love, betrayal, purity, holiness, and many more. And this particular paper is an attempt to bring out the multi-leveled symbol of water with reference to two major literary works, Adi, authored by Sarah Joseph, and the play Riders to the Sea, authored by J.M. Sinch. I'm going to focus about the dual nature of water, or the duality of water as that of a preserver and a destroyer. Adi is a stupendous novel written by Sarah Joseph that traces the relationship between mankind and the land they inhabit. The work has also a translation by Walson Tambu in the name Gift in Green, without shedding a single scale from that of the original work. This work raises several questions on the unjustly act of mankind on nature, and it voices the author's deepest concerns with regard to the chaotic state of the environment. It highlights the fury of the water that emerges out of the greedy nature of mankind in the name of development. Adi is a village of serene beauty covered with pristine water bodies which flows smoothly at times like a river and thunderous as ocean. The whole village of Adi is embellished with numerous water bodies where people found divine presence in them. Water stands as the overriding metaphor throughout the novel, where the water-human connectedness is emphasized. It is made evident in the story that the clear water body that is buried beneath the earth had sustained the village Adi and its inhabitants for centuries. And apart from the literal meaning of water, Sarah Joseph in this particular novel has effectively portrayed water as a multi-leveled symbol, as that of life, death, love, power, etc. And one such aspect of water is the dual nature of water as that of a preserver and a destroyer. It regenerates and degenerates the life in Adi. The whole novel revolves around water, wherein it is water that protected the village from atrocities for ages. It's water that sustains the whole village of Adi. For them, water is everything, and everything is from water. The people in the village perceived water as their preserver, as they fished and farmed for their daily needs. People flourished in Adi depending upon the backwaters and the rich source of fish they got from there. The people of Adi lived a water life in the sense that the people think about their daily needs without harming the nature. They draw out their means of existence from it. Their immediate needs were met from water. That includes collecting enough food to feed the whole family. And in this way, we can say that Sarah Joseph has effectively portrayed the preserving nature of water. But the cool, serene island of water bodies and mangroves and the inhabitants disseminated with the advent of modernity, that Kumaran, one of the central characters, introduced in the village. The ecological equilibrium of the whole village shattered with modernization, pollution, and corruption. Land-filling earthworks replaced the water that led to the wreckage of nature. The purity of water became shattered with the arrival of modernity. A man covered with greediness, the one who alienated from nature due to selfishness, made the water habitat a sewage dump. The whole purity of water became invisible as the water bodies dried up, destroying Adi part by part. And the destruction of the water of the Adi not only destroyed human beings, but also animals, birds, plants, fish, and many more. The fall of Adi was a direct result of the fall of the water bodies, making it polluted and decayed. The contamination of this divine water bodies ultimately led to the contamination of the whole village, thereby making the lives of Adi miserable. The character Kumaran filled the backwaters with waste from the city that ultimately led to the breeding of diseases that brought death in the village. The once pure water turned as the carrier of the deadliest viruses and other deadly diseases as the result of the decaying minds of people in pursuit of their greediness. And the children of the village are stricken by typhoid that led to their death very soon. Darkness spread all over Adi when the serenity of water life was destroyed by Kumaran with the advent of modernity. The metaphorical darkness of Adi connotes to the destruction of the place itself. They felt the absence of God and the wrath of nature as they witnessed the destruction and contamination of this miracle of life. The rebirth of Adi was by water as well, indicating that it could degenerate and regenerate lives on earth. And this particular novel resonates the present-day environmental issues like water contamination, pollution, improper waste disposal management, disposal of plastic, and many more. Sarah Joseph has blended many environmental problems in the work, which can be analyzed in an eco-critical angle. It's about how development ravages this gift in green when it disregards ecological equilibrium. And she paints a horrific picture of how the consumerist longing destroys the tranquility and even the existence of water, which is the vital component of life on earth. The degenerative and regenerative power of nature can also be traced from the play Riders to the Sea, written by J.M. Synge. It is considered to be a classic work of the Irish literary Renaissance that draws heavily on the struggles of people with nature. The tragedy, set in the Aran Islands, draws upon the hopeless struggle of people against the impersonal but the relentless cruelty of the sea. Sea is a force of nature over which nobody has any control. The harsh realities and struggling faced by a cross-section of the society, the fisherfolk community, is highlighted in the story with regard to their struggle with the ferocious sea for their livelihood. The tragic theme of the play revolves around Maurya. The sea took away Maurya's husband, her father-in-law, and the lives of all her 5 sons. Although the play's tragedy is straightforward and simple, it has a universal and persuasive argument. We can see various instances where the conflicts between man and nature is portrayed. Maurya sees herself at constant war with the sea. Here, sea stands as a pivotal image throughout the play, and it is the means of livelihood of the fisherman community of the island. The islanders' dependence on the sea is portrayed through the simple setting of the play. He makes sea concrete on stage to portray the extent of dependence that the islanders have towards the sea. Yet their connection with water does not always protect them for survival and instead brings tragic end to their lives. Countless lives were devoured by the sea, but the struggle for the fisher community never ceases as they have no other option to make their living. The sea takes up the role of fate and becomes instrumental to human suffering and death. Here, the power of the sea becomes the central theme. Here we can see sea as a main character with its dualistic nature, functioning as both the provider for the family and as its potential destroyer. Many people lost their lives during the travel through the rough waters. The utmost sorrow of humanity results from the violent and ferocious might of the sea, an unforgiving natural element. But on the other hand, the whole community depend on the sea and its resources to make their living. But it is sea itself that takes away the lives of the people who depend on it. The play projects sea as an antagonist due to the fact that it acts as the villain who takes away the lives of the poor fishing men. They gather seaweeds to use as fuel. They have to cross the sea for the purchase of goods to sell their products. It is their primary source of income, but it acts as their destroyer. The sea, as a powerful natural force, exhibits violence and ferocity, making their lives perished. All the male members of the family are riders. They ride to the sea for fishing so that they could support their family, making adventures to the sea. But finally, they have to face their death. They have to succumb their life in front of the sea. The sea is both a provider and a destroyer. It provides life, and at the same time, it takes it. Sea is an unavoidable factor for the islanders for them. It's a provider, but results in their unfortunate death. In an eco-critical perspective, where the relationship between human and non-human beings are presented in stark contrast to the anthropocentric worldview, which grants a central position of human beings in the universe. Here, this relationship is illustrated through the agentic power of a rough and perilous sea. And comparing these two works, Adi and Riders to the Sea, we can say that in Adi, the water acted as a destroyer due to the selfishness of human beings, due to the greediness of human beings with the advent of modernity. On the other hand, in Riders to the Sea, it is evident of the helpless nature of man in front of the powerful sea. And the greatest irony lies in the fact that though man stands against water, it is water that becomes the greatest force in winning the battle every single time. Let me conclude this presentation by highlighting the point that it is high time that humans be aware that man is inferior before nature and water can even swallow the whole world. Thank you.
A well articulated and presented comparative analysis, I must say. Thank you, Anaga. Also, if anyone has any comments or questions, feel free to chime in. No need to hold yourselves back. We can have a lively discussion. I would like to welcome our next presenter, Aparna Jayadevan from St. Thomas College. Aparna, you may begin.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm Aparna Jaydevan, MA English student of St. Thomas College, Paris. My paper is titled Demystifying the Mutable Nature of Sea, a content analysis of Moonapaka. So this is going to be discussed here. This study explores the sea and its multiple meanings as portrayed in cinema. This is a content analysis of P. Padmanajan's Malayalam movie Moonambakam. This film embarks on a journey through the maritime world. So, it is clear through the analysis that the paradoxes of meaning in the sea hall. Padmanajan traces an emotional journey as we consider sea as a site of bread giver and destruction, of beauty and uncertainty, of hope, pain, and fun. The characters depicted in the movie are relatable to us. Thus, it gives us a sense of endearment. In this particular movie, the sea took the life of Parsi, a youngling. On the other hand, the fisherfolk depended on the sea for meeting their ends. Then it is obvious that the sea has two faces. So let us look into the plot of the story. Mona Bakam, directed by P. Padmanajan, tells the story of an old man's affection towards his grandson. He lives a life in solitude, waiting for his grandson to come over there for vacation after a long 6 years. Stumpy, starred by Tilakan, is a retired Indian Navy employee who lives in the ancestral house near a beachside. His grandson Bhaskar is played by Jairam, who has completed his MBBS in this film. Stumpy is excited when he receives a letter describing his Pachu's wish to come over to spend his vacation with his grandfather. Pachu's fiancée is Bhadra, who happens to be the daughter of Stumpy's dear friend. During the vacation, Pachu and his friends go to the beach to bath so often. During one such visit, Pachu and Lopez, played by Rahman, get pulled into the sea and only Lopez manages to escape. The police and the local people conduct a rescue operation but went lame. The locals believe that whatever is taken by the mother sea is returned on the third day, as the title puts it, Moonam Pakam. Tambi could not accept the fact that his dear grandson is no more. He consoles Pachu's mother, lover, and friend by putting on a mask of courage. Like yet, the body is found on the third day. The funeral is held on the same day as it was an accident, and Pachu's friends plan to leave the day after. They all go to the beach one last time to bid farewell to Pachu. Tampi arrives with the Hindu priest to perform the funeral rites. He unexpectedly walks into the sea and presents himself to it. The tide takes him away forever. So now let us look into the different elements sea contributes to in this film. The film begins with the scenes of Stumpy getting ready to bath in the pond. Swimming is a really good exercise both for our psyche and our body. This is the healthy aspect of it. Then it shifts to the scene where his dear Pachu's letter arrives. He says in the letter that he will be coming to his homeland along with his friends. He adds that his description of the home and its surroundings have made them come along with him. Here, we can see the aesthetic aspect of the scene. Also, there are some black and white elements to this elements that the sea could convey. Where a life is gay of color, which is a mixture of black and white, the multiple meanings the image of sea can hold is a nice parallel to this. There is a blackness and whiteness of meaning in the hues of sea. That means the ever conquering aesthetics of a blue sea which compelled Pachu's friends to come over is the same thing, but it can also depict the loneliness of Tampi. The conversation between Tampi and the children starts when he asks the children to bath in the pond, but they refused to do so since they found the more spacious sea to bathe more comfortably. This can be the alluring property of sea where it is more spacious compared to other water bodies. This scene foreshadows something dark is going to happen. Obviously, the death of Pachu. The children swim and bathe in the sea. The music plays in tune to the romanticizing of sea there. The friends then plan to spend time in a fort, but they're not allowed to get in there. So they find the beachside as an alternative to spend their time. The beachside as a tour spot is the aspect explored in there. Flute music is being played on with the music of the waves and streams. This is melancholic in tone, where Parsi and Bhadra talks about their parents' disinterestedness in keeping up with their relationships with them. Here, the sea alludes to the pain the children suffer and also aspect rainbow. The scene is also being romanticized when the friends come and pair the youngsters up. There are also minor characters like Kavala, who has no children or wife, Wani, who is a poetess who view the sea as a companion to escape from the gruesome realities of life, surrounded by loneliness is something. The uncertainty of sea is also being portrayed in this way. It is clear when the four friends swimming and enjoying their time in the sea, two of them struggle to drown. Other friends shout and run towards them helplessly, but they keep on drowning. Only one of them manages to the shore. Such an emotional scene where we feel the dreadfulness of this sea. The restless sea is uncertain of what to do. Sometimes people could make a living out of it. Sometimes the sea engulfs the lives of people. These are the paradoxes of many, as we could call it. Hasi, who longed to spend his vacation on the seashore, is ended up with spending his afterlife in the never-ending sea. Some random people on the shore say Mother Sea brings back the body on the third day, and it has happened. The last scene is the most after the funeral rites party. Stumpy walked to the sea holding his ashes. This is really paradoxical. The same sea who took Hasi's life has also acted out as the medium of his ashes being plotted out. The cultural aspect of the sea is ironic. Also, the ever-confident beauty corresponds with human emotions to Stumpy's act of suicide. In a nutshell, the role of sea in art has been noted for decades, as people experience the sea in contradictory ways, as powerful but beautiful. The sea plays a vital role in people imagining as well as how it has been the reason for the greatest. Cultural aspects of sea, like ashes after the funeral fire is being taken out, is also another side of the story, where it is clear that the sea holds paradoxes of meaning. This movie is all about love, life, hope, despair, and misfortune. When somebody gets excited about Haji coming to the vacation, the sight of sea fills us with joy. Sambi reminisces the beautiful memories he had with his children along the shore is another pleasure. Even if everyone believes it is sea who took the life of Pasi, Sambi never believed that he was dead. Sambi and Patu's friends come over to the beach of him for another 2 days since they had hope in the sea. But the most misfortune thing happened to them by the sea. It is just say that the sea god. Thus, the mutable nature of sea is demystified in the movie Muna Bakam by P. Patanajan. So that's all about my people. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Aparna. That was a good presentation. We will move on to our next presenter, Ms. Divini Deborah from Dr. NGP Arts and Science College. Divini, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Is my voice audible?
It is on.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, all. I am Divani Deborah from NGP Arts and Science College, Coimbatore, and I'm studying MA in English Literature. And my paper's title is Water in the Bible, a weapon of God's wrath and the vehicle of his miracles. And I have shown in my paper that how God uses water as a paradoxical element. That is, he uses the water to judge the people, to judge the wicked people, and also he uses the water to give perfect justice and to perform miracles for the good and also the bad. So, in my paper, I have listed out many places in the Bible where God uses water as a benefit and also as a curse. First of all, I would like to show how God uses water as the tool of judgment and also his cup of wrath, how he uses water as the wrath. So, in the first, it is very popularly known of Noah's time when there was lots of sinful people in the world and the sin was to an extreme that God wanted to destroy the world. And the sin went to where every place were found to be murderers and robbers and people who mistreated each other were there, and the sin of the place called especially the whole earth was so sinful that God wanted to destroy the whole world. So at that time he found just Noah as the righteous person and he wanted to protect him and he asked Noah to preach to the people to come into the ark, which God instructed Noah to build, the huge ship where the people, whoever listened to God's word, whoever wanted to turn into good people, had the chance to come into the ark and find the safety before the great rains could come and destroy the whole world. So Noah preached for 120 years, and none came except his family, who consists of 8 members. So the 8 members went into the ark, and God sent the rain, which fell upon all the earth and covered the earth, and the great floods caused a entitled destruction. So God uses this water as the tool of judgment on the wicked and sinful people who are not willing to repent from their sins and not willing to come back to Him. And on the other side, moving on to after the new worlds were formed, after after the ark, there were the Israel people who were the God's chosen people who were called to live a pure life. They were enslaved by the Egyptians. They were enslaved by the Egyptians and they were treated miserably for 400 years. So God showed his judgment upon the Egyptians through rain. So there were lots of warnings sent to the Egyptians, but the Pharaoh, the king of the Egyptians, denied and neglected and ignored the warnings of God. So God sent the judgment upon the Egyptians. He sent Moses, a prophet of God, and his companion Aaron, his brother, to to turn the important river Nile into blood. So as soon as Moses took his shepherd's stick and touched the water, the Nile, it turned into red. So and all the living creatures in the water in the river Nile were dead, and the people were unable to use the Nile. Nile was the most important source of water for the entire Egypt itself, but the people were unable to drink. And this was a kind of warning from God for the people to turn away from their wickedness and to turn to Him and to come towards Him. But still, the Egyptians denied it. And then the other part, as the period progresses, at one part of the time when the Pharaoh gives up and he asked the children of Israel, he asked the Israel people to go away, just as Moses the prophet of God had requested. So Israel and Moses took a great exodus from Egypt to a place called Canaan, which they called as the Promised Land. So on the way, there was the great Red Sea in front of them, which was a hindrance to them. So with here, water acted as a hindrance between God's plan. There was the great Red Sea, and the children of Israel, that is, the Israel people, were unable to cross the great sea. So at this time, God wanted to prove the people of Israel that He is not only their Father, but also their leader, and also their one true God. So He wanted to show them that they could trust Him. So even when they were in the dead end of the sea, unable to turn anywhere, and back the Egyptians again began to chase the people of Israel, trying to take them back into slavery. And the people of Israel were very scared and frightened. At that time, God shows Israel that they can trust Him throughout their journey and forever, that He will be their one true God. So, as He asked Prophet Moses to hold his hand up, and he splits open the Red Sea into two, and he leads the people of Israel to walk on the seafloor as if it's a dry ground. And the people of Israel rejoiced and they celebrated God and they thanked Him. And there was a great deal of hope that came into them. And they began to trust God and they went through it. So they went through it. After they had gone, the Egyptians started to travel through the seafloor to capture the people of Israel. They wanted to enslave them again. Here, God acts again. God takes this water as a paradoxical element. Here, he used this Red Sea to to give hope and to give light and new life for the people of Israel who believed and walked in his ways. But when the Egyptians who were wicked people at that time, they were wicked and they were against God. So when they came again to come, he uses the same Red Sea to completely close over the Egyptians and to destroy them. The Egyptian army men who came against the people of Israel. So here God uses water, the Red Sea, as a paradoxical element. Thus, God gave a perfect justice for all the Egyptians who had tortured the innocent people of Israel and enslaved them for 400 years. So, this was the judgment of God that came upon Egyptians for their wicked manner of treating their neighbors, which are the people of Israel. So as the journey of the people progresses towards their promised land, there were many parts where God uses this same water as the pathway for miracles. At one point, actually, these people who are the mm, traveling to the promised land, the entire road is full of desert. It is a desert pathway. So when they were going through it, at one point of the time in middle of the desert, they are they run out of water in their bags and they plead and ask God for water. At that time, God God asks Prophet Moses to hit a rock, a dry rock, and through when he hits the rock called Horeb, from there the water splits open and there the water comes rushing out as a clear brook. So the people of Israel they drink the water and their thirst is quenched. God uses this water again to tell the people of Israel that he will lead them and they just have to trust him blindly and to follow him wherever he leads them. So this water as a drink gives Israel hope that they can trust God and can follow him wherever he leads them. And I could give so many examples which I have stated in my article, which I'll run out of time if I state all of those. But yet, I would state another important event where God used water as the act of judgment. That is, He uses this again as a paradoxical element. He uses rain. At one point of the time, when the people begin to sin too much in the world, God stops rain over a nation and he uses the prophet Elijah to stop the rain for 3.5 years until the people could repent and could turn from their evil ways. And when they turn, God again sends them good rain for many years and gives them good harvest. And the most important event where God uses water as the tool of judgment is during the apocalypse. It is the period which is going to happen from in the future. This event is stated in the prophetical book, the final book of the Bible, which is called as the Revelation, where all the things that are going to happen in the world in the future in the end of the world is stated there. And there in Revelation chapter 8, during the during the wrath of God which falls upon the earth, where only the wicked people are there on the earth, where God had taken away all the people who trusted him, he just takes them into heaven. After that, the remnant people who are there in the earth are wicked people, and God um, sends many acts of judgment to tell them that they have to turn from their evil ways and trust them. But the people on the earth, the remnant people on the earth, the remaining people on the earth, does not do that. So in the future, God, the Bible states that God would send an angel who would throw a mountain of fire into the sea, and a third of the sea in the world would turn into red. It would look like blood, and the people would be unable to consume the water, and thus they would die, and they would be affected with lots of deadly diseases. And the Bible also states that in the future, when this thing happens, a third of the creatures in the sea would die, and also the living creatures on the land would die. So here God uses this water as God's judgment, as his judgment on the wicked people who would no longer turn from their sinful ways to him, who would no longer believe him. After this, I would like to tell how God uses water as his tool of God of his miracles, how he performs miracles using the same water. Here, as I said before, God parts the Red Sea for the people of Israel to walk through the dry land. That is the greatest miracle that He gave the people to show that they could trust Him. And He gave a hope for the people and also to everyone that they could trust Him and He would lead them. And another important event that happens is God's leadership. God shows His leadership when the people of Israel go to the promised land. When they are about to go to the promised land, the river of Jordan stands as a barrier. If they cross that river, they could reach their promised land, which is the land of Canaan. But then the river of Jordan would stand as a barrier. So God wanted to show his leadership again that they could trust him. So he again split open the Jordan and he led his people through the Jordan River into the promised land to show that he is the leader and he is their king and he is the one true God. So this all of this happens in the Old Testament except the Apocalypse. When we come to the New Testament, we could see that there are two important and the most vital events that happened regarding water. That is the during a wedding at Cana. It's a place in Israel. During that wedding, this is the time where Jesus, the Son of God, walks on the world. So when Jesus came down, when God turned as man and came into the world as Jesus Christ, he walked on the during his time. There was a wedding at a place called Cana, and there the people in the wedding they ran out of wine, that is grape wine. So the grape wine and bread was the most prominent food for the people of Israel and the Middle Eastern countries at that time, at 2000 years ago. So at this time, when they ran out of grape wine, uh, Jesus Christ asked the servants to fill empty jugs, empty huge barrels with water. When the servants filled it with water, he blesses the water and it turns into wine. So the people in the wedding feast, they drink it and they celebrate and they also praise the glory of God and the miracle. This is the first miracle. So this is a very prominent place because God uses proves his first miracle as Christ. He shows his first miracle upon a water in the feast of a wedding. This is found in the New Testament, and also another one of the most famous and the most vital event that happens is that when the disciples of Jesus Christ are in the sea, all of them are fishermen, and when they are in the Sea of Galilee is being tossed and turned in the storm. So in the storm, when the disciples who are fishermen who are there in the storm, they thought that they would die in that water, that the water would consume them. But then, but then they see a figure walking upon the water. So uh, when they take a closer look at it, Christ, Lord Jesus, walks on the water and he comes towards them. He shows that he he has the total control of all the nature and even water would obey him. And he walks on the water and he helps his disciples and he gets into the boat. This is one of the most vital events that happens in the New Testament. And also, at another point, God uses this as a uses the storm and the sea as a tool of miracle also. So finally here, when again in another event where Jesus and his disciples travel in the boat, there is a huge storm that comes over the boat where Jesus Christ is as fast asleep on the plank. So at this time, when the disciples are fearful of their life, they wake up Christ Jesus, and they ask him to save them. Immediately, he stands up and he asks them why they were scared when he was with them. And again, here, God shows that he is a leader and they could trust him, and that he is the one true God. And so he stands up and he orders the storm and the sea to calm down. Immediately after that, the whole sea calms down. And all of this he does, God does to ask the people as a sign and a proof for the people that they could trust him. So at the end of I have come to the end of my presentation, and here I could say that God has used water as the tool of judgment and also the most important tool to perform miracles. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Divani. That was a detailed presentation. Thank you so much. We will move on to our next presenter, who is Miss Megha Mohan. Megha, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Megha, and currently I'm doing my post-graduation in English at BK College, Amalagiri. So I'll be presenting. Aishwarya, is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Thank you.
Megha, we can see your Google Meet tab, not the presentation.
Okay, I was.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay. So my topic is when it rains, it pours. The social implications of rain in Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. So first, let's talk about Korean society. Being one of the largely developed economy in the world, South Korea is the fifth equal in the world in 2019. The country is one of the gang of four East Asian countries that achieved rapid growth in the past years. Even after being one of the biggest economic success, Korea has the poorest income inequality according to the Korean Times story in 2018. So social exclusion remains a major challenge both to government as well as the society here. So the movie that I'm going to discuss is Parasite. So it was released in the year 2019. Its screenplay, direction, and story, these three were done by Bong Joon-ho, and it was premiered at Cannes Festival 2019, May 21. And it collected a whopping amount of 265 million at box office and was also awarded 4 Oscars at the 92nd Academy Awards in 2019. So, talking about the movie, the film reflects two different families from two different classes, the Kim and the Park. The Kim family lives in an underground, cramped apartment consisting 4 members, and they doesn't even have good Wi-Fi services. And for extra income, they pack pizza boxes. While the Park family belongs to a wealthy aristocratic one, they enjoy all the luxuries and riches. So one of the most succinct yet impactful scene in the movie is the flood scene that occurs in the second half of the movie, which brings about class conflicts and contrast. So, this scene lay bare the social disparity of the society. According to the Japanese Times, the lower classes of South Korea may be more relatable to June's representation of class inequality. So, the flood scene, the third act. Talking about the Park family, the family lives in the uh, lives on the hillside where water won't clog or flood. On the night of the flood, Mr. and Mrs. Park spend a very romantic evening in their living room while their son is spending his night inside his tent in their lush garden, enjoying the rain. So these people, they are living in the protection of their strong roof, entirely oblivious to all the disaster that has been created by the water, and their privacy is quite protected too. Now, mankind is divided into two benefactors and malefactors. So the Kim family, um, their house is ruined by the flood, and the water level has reached their neck and has soaked all the valuables, destroyed toilets, everything is destroyed. So they are compelled to stay at a gym where all the people have lost their family or their house are staying in. So here we can see a very significant scene where their eldest daughter, Kim Ki Chun, is sitting on the top of the toilet, which is clogging, and smoking a cigarette. And this encapsulates the feeling of despair within the Kims, seeing everything destroyed, being destroyed in front of their eyes, being helpless. So they are portrayed as folks who have hard time making both the ends meet. So Jong Hu contrasts this extravagant riches of the Park family with the hard realities of the people living below poverty line. The King family's ultimate psychological implication is the overwhelming feeling of hopelessness. This family has constantly experienced instability and has hit rock bottom as the flood takes everything away from them. Rain and lifeless street are the biggest factors in making the scene more powerful. The special effect team has put a lot of effort to get the water pressure right when Ki Chun was sitting on top of the toilet smoking the cigarette. And this scene tries to encapsulate the feeling of despair that Kim feels. The most vulnerable scene in the movie was arranged in Kuyong Aqua Studio, South Korea. Settled in a semi-basement apartment and neighborhood of 20 buildings, were constructed in a large water tank where 50 tons of water were drawn from the nearby river. So the camera scenes in the movie pans and tilts as we follow the Kims to guide our eyes to take in things that are happening in the family. So I quote what Bong Ho has said in an interview. Because we had to flood the entire neighborhood, we built it in a giant swimming pool, a water tank. And on the last day of shooting, we poured sewage water. So this was what Bong Ho, the director, screenwriter of the movie, said in an interview. So this is the scenario on the day following the flood. The picture down to the right, we can see that Yong Kyo, the mother of Parks, enthusiastically hosting an unexpected garden party for their son's birthday. So she has already invited Kim's there. And she clumsily thanks the previous night's intense storm for a clear blue sky and laughs that they traded camping for a green garden party. So these two scenes shows a clear divide between the rich and poor. While the Kims are suffering, the Parks are taking most out of the rain. They slept comfortably throughout the flood because their mansion is located at higher heights. So Bong's intention was to demonstrate that the water only flows from top to bottom, not the other way around. Speaking directly to the underlying class divisions in many of his works, particularly the work that I have chosen, Parasite, the rain was simply a nuisance for the parks, but for Kim's, it nearly destroyed their life. The ability of the rain to modify things may be seen as uh, can be seen as both for the rich and the poor, but how much these affect their life is quite different, and it shows the inequality between the classes. The presence of rainy clouds throughout the film is a portent of awful things that are yet to come as the plot develops. So the flood scene become more and more relatable when it turns into a real life incident, which happened in the same country on Wednesday, 2022. A man named Hansik used plastic bowl to empty water from his lower floor flat in Silim, a low-income neighborhood in southwest Seoul, where the flooding brought on by the severe rain forced the family to spend night at the nearby park. The 15-year-old guy has gathered furniture, books, kitchen utensils, and other items with his wife and children. The image comfortably represents and resembles the severe flood apartment in Parasite. The recovery effort was intensified on Wednesday as the rainy clouds moved toward the south, at least in the wealthier areas, which, while much of the Silim remained underwater, with people comparing the situation to a mud bath in Gangnam. Most roads had been cleared and all traffic was back to normal, where the fortunate people lived unaware of all the hardship faced by the poor. I'm concluding by saying that all the aforementioned occurrences sums up and reflects nation's current social and economic unrest, where the gap between the rich and the poor is widening daily. Bong Ho is a master of cinematography, has accentuated this divide by using a well-known flood scene. Despite the fact that the gap between the rich and poor is difficult to close, in the time of crisis, poor frequently pay a higher price than the privileged. Thank you.
Thank you, Megha. That was a really good presentation. With that, we have started our third session, third and final. And I'd like to request Nimmi Joseph to present next, followed by Geetika Savidesh. Nimmi, are you there?
Yes.
You may present.
Good afternoon, Joe. I am presenting my paper, Importance of Water in Life. Life is water. It's among the most valuable, significant resources that support life. Water makes the earth vibrant, green, joyful, and growing. Without water, life cannot exist on this planet. Fortunately, there is enough of water our globe. While the worth of water of human life acknowledged by everybody, each culture also has a unique manner of expressing that value. Water is central to rites and practice in many religions and ideologies. Water is a fundamental element of physical and spiritual existence in the majority of religious tradition, and it also serves as a symbol of purity, rebirth, and fertility. This idea still has a big impact on how people think about act today when it comes to water. Water is related to physical and spiritual washing and purification. For Christians, spiritual rebirth is symbolized by baptism, water, which is physical representation of God's grace. Pure and holy rivers, most notably the Ganga, which originates from a holy source in the Himalayas, are fundamental to Hindu religious practice. According to legend, immersion in the Ganga will purifying and releasing believers from sin. Buddhists believe that everything in the universe, including people, animals, water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and stars, is interconnected. Seek spiritual enlightenment is natural settings such as a wood, rivers, and mountains. Religions continues to play increasingly acknowledged ethical and practical role as a people struggle to sustain the world's water supply today and in the future. If we truly believe that water has intrinsic value, it will show in the way of behave. Our deeds will reflect spiritual reverence of the earth's water resources. Understanding human spirituality helps us to define our essential beliefs. Essential beliefs and again a deeper understanding of spiritual meanings that other people and civilizations have assigned to nature world. This is a useful tool for interaction regarding true significance of the natural world and our place within it. This is especially true with water, a natural phenomenon that of thousands of years are received as the focal point of spiritual symbolism and religious ceremony in human communities. Art has been employed to convey the scared value of life, the spiritual dimension of purification, protection, and healing, and the profound meaning of suffering and in human life. The surprising regularly among human societies, the use of water in various world religions and briefly discussed in this section before turning back to issues of our own spiritual knowledge of water, with a particular emphasis on Christian tradition. In all of them, water is a symbol of life, of purification, and of hope values that are common denominator that units us that we should take into much greater consideration. This is supported by his history, philosophy, as well as rituals and ancient cultures and religions. What has significant symbolic meaning in many different faith-based cultures. The word representing things like life is purity, renewal, and reconciliation, as well as turmoil and destruction. Many religions still practice the worshipping of bodies of water and deities. The Ganges River will follow more than 2,500 kilometers through northern India. It is received Hindus. The river is regarded as the holiest river in Hinduism and is represented by the goddess Ganga, the mother of all humans. Hindus from all over the world traditionally congregate on the river edge of scared festivals, immersing themselves in the water to atone for their sins, affirming that there are deep instructions between human deeds, economic well-being, spirituality, and the viability of freshwater life. Depending on one's beliefs, water can heal, cleanse, purify, or brings blessings. And today's water governs is weaker as a result of failure to fully represent these values. You can see the same features and ideology of Hindu religious rituals and customs in the film Sundari Killadi, directed by Murali Krishna. The majority of the movie takes place in this called Swapna Bhumi as a fantasy imagery village. In the movie, there are dialogues that describe how construction of a dam blocked tributaries flow in this village, causing drought. There are no roads or electricity at. Besides brief glimpse of camera, it's possible determine that what decade the movie set in. This bit of world building was recurring because It is called Movies About Village Build Well before it turns out water given the quantity of rainfall Kerala receives each year in the fictional universe of the movie. A family of talented well diggers referred to Killadi. Dilip's portrays the Premachandra Sundar Killadi is one of the chosen one, the last surviving male in this family. Premachandran refuses when a group of Sapnabhumi villagers ask him to dig a well from them. Would the relevant when they offers to pay him 10 times the current all conventional well utility skills have allowed him to uh, this calling supported by the locals are certain that the road can only be entered by the member of the Vedapuram Kiladi tribe nearly as soon as Premachandra arrives at Sapnabhumi. His resistance is broken as he discovers evidence of his purpose across the village. He starts to feel sense of responsibility. He also begins regarding book his ancestors gave him and uses them again. Due to connection to more fundamental cause, this goal construct this well gains significance in eyes of the audience. Ramachandran can only be with the woman he falls in love with if the villagers' trained regulations are loosed and only when the village has its own water sources can that happen. Nearly 30 minutes into the movie, Devani introduced and even this movement established the local distinctive rituals and customs. In a typical movie, the hero would have faced off against the village's traditional ritualist. But in this one, hero also adhered to his own set laws and traditions. We continue to trust in this grand scheme of things. Even though we like the hero, finds their practices where they're in way even we don't comprehend or concur with its laws. They are willing to follow them because they are part of the universe of fantasy. The villagers don't see despite their backward behaviors. We shared Premachandran's and Devani's concern for the village's water supply. The Devani in the movie, like the Devani from Hindu mythology, portrays the daughter of gift healer who hold the Mrita Sanjeevani mantra or power of restrict a person. Again, it's intriguing to observe how the movie bases the plot of their love story on this tale. Too many adherents of the world's faith fail to regard water as limited natural resources, despite the fact that water has been essential for religious symbolism and ritual throughout human history. To understand the worth of water, many members of religious communities and and an equal number of non-religious people need to undergo an inner spiritual conversion. The Jesuit trees healing a broken world, which serves as the spiritual foundation for this healing earth textbook, places a strong emphasis on the requirement of this conversion or changing of heart. In order to change our hearts, the state in healing a broken world, we must face our internal resistance and look gratefully upon creation, allowing our heart to be moved by its wounded reality and committing ourselves both individuality and collectively, collective, collectively to its repair. Thank you everyone for patiently hearing my presentation.
Thank you, Nimi.